Men have a tendency to romanticize international relationships. And so they're like, yeah, I met this one in Brazil, and next time I go back, when next time you going back? 9 months from now. And okay, so you expect her to hold wear a chastity belt for 9 months, and she got 3 kids, right? So she's already proven that chastity belts don't work for her, but she's gonna
Right.
hold out.
Mm.
Do women have a tendency of when they meet somebody in other countries and they hit it off? I mean, they hit it off intimately, socially. You meet the family. You know how Colombia is. You meeting the family. You're eating mama food and good cooking, and then you go to another location, but you really like this person. Do women have that same tendency of romanticizing uh, relationships, international relationships, and not being uh, honest with themselves at times, just like men don't?
Mm. Well, I can't speak for all women. We're all different. All situations are different.
Right, right.
I would say for myself, mm, it's easy to get caught up in the moment, especially if like how you were saying, like, you're hitting it off in all the right areas and it just seems great. But I think because I'm so realistic about my situation and knowing, I have a path that I'm on and things that I'm looking to accomplish for me. And I
Right.
think what I'm ultimately looking for in a partner is someone who aligns on that same path. So if it's someone who I'm meant to be with, then it wouldn't be me romanticizing about someone I won't see for another
True.
9 months. Like it would be someone who would be able to continue on with me and us to get to grow and know each other over those 9 months. So yeah, I think it's easy to do that, but when you're in a position where you're constantly traveling and moving, and that the reality is like that's if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. So yeah, you can romanticize. You can also be realistic. I do think it depends on the situation. If it's someone vacationing
True.
and like, oh, I'll come back. I've seen a lot of women write on Facebook, the different Jamaican men they fell in love with, and they're gonna get married, and it's you got both sides of the spectrum.
True. True. And I like how you put if that person's if that person could be parallel to the journey that you're on, and because Andre and I are perfect examples. If she wasn't a person in the type of career that she's in, Andre is an accountant. If she's wasn't a person that could travel as much as we do, just think
Mhm.
about, I'm a traveler, and then I date somebody or marry somebody that's a non-traveler. That would be problematic. I'm business focused, so Andre is very business minded. Uh, so a lot of things have to be parallel to keep you from throwing off the trajectory of their goals, and them not throwing off the trajectory of your goals, and you can come together. And so I agree with you 100% regarding that. And I give you another example of not doing that. When you find a person says, well, she only wants you for a green card, and not realizing that, for example, Andrea has built a career. She's going to college. She's put in all the work, all the days when she was riding her motorcycle through the rain to get to class and working at the same time, all the
Yeah.
study she had to do, all the hours she had to put in, and then to work for a company as an intern and build up her clientele is not easy as a woman, especially as you know in Colombia.
Mm.
And to just throw it all away to move to the United States with Andre, to get a green card, and knowing that none of her college credits or her resume transfers to the United States. So now my woman is a dishwasher or making beds, uh, and and changing filthy sheets at the Red Roof Inn, or she's doing nails. And a lot of times people in America don't realize that people in other countries don't necessarily want to move to America and throw away all that they've worked for.
Find that people don't realize that it's a life change. Yeah,
Yeah,
that they would be sacrificing. Not everyone wants a green card.
yeah.
Not everyone is pressed on getting to America. Yeah, that's a very American mindset, actually.
Andre's best friend uh is in the States right now, and the sister's like, I'm ready to come home.
I
And
believe
Andrea
it.
like, what about the wonderful United States? Your spot. She said no. She said, I miss the food, I miss my family, I miss my
Yeah.
country. A lot of people in the United States don't realize this. There are black people in the world that have their own flag. I know We don't have one, so we had to get one. We just had to sit back and say, okay, American flag is ours. We helped build this country. We helped make it what it is. We gave it ingenuity and creativity. So therefore,
Mhm.
it's ours by default. We didn't
Exactly.
conquer it, but it's ours by default. So we accept it that way. But yet you don't see us walking around with red, white, and blue shirts like the redneck dudes do. Shout out to the redneck brothers and the flags. Okay, cool. But at the end of the day, there are people that are Colombians and are Brazilians and are Peruvians and Costa Ricans. They have their own flag and
Yeah.
they honor and respect their flag. I was asking Andre that question. Is there a difference between, at the end of the day, is there a difference between Afro Colombians and mulattoes and European Colombians and indigenous? She said, at the end of the day, we are Colombians. She said, we celebrate, we dance. Our culture
Yeah.
is supposed to be multi because that's what we celebrate as Colombians. She said, you guys kind of up and down with your flag because you have 50 states. We only have five. So therefore, we celebrate as Colombians, and our flag is our flag, no matter what color you are. And
Yeah.
do you find that nationalist pride in most of the South American countries, no matter what color you are, that's your flag or your country or their flag or
Yeah.
their country?
I had a conversation with a friend the other day. I think we were talking about, I had done a little Africa tour of the slave port. It used to be the biggest slave port here in Brazil, but they call
Right.
it Little Africa now in Rio. And so I was talking to a friend about it, and at one point I had asked him like, "So how would you identify? Would you call yourself like Afro Brazilian?" And he gave me this look. And he was like, "No, I'm just Brazilian." Like I was like, "Interesting." Like they don't even think to distinguish in that way. Like that's just. I wonder where the term Afro Brazilian actually came from. If that was something that like we from like in news articles and things like that, just put on them, or if it's something, a term that they actually used prior to, you know, society putting that on them. But yeah, I do see that same sentiment and just pride for their flag, regardless of what color, what spectrum on the color spectrum, what color on the spectrum that they are.
I find that you might be right because when it comes to the titles, because I rarely hear of anybody calling themselves Afro Colombians.
Mm-mm.
They have other titles that they use for themselves, or they just say I'm Colombian. But
Yeah.
we as outsiders, especially Black people, we put Afro or Africa on the front of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Afro Italian, Afro German, Afro. We put
Yeah.
Afro just for our categorizing a particular culture. And so we assume that they are doing that to themselves because we categorize them as outsiders. So we automatically assume that they must be doing that to themselves. And that's not necessarily true because we categorize ourselves in the States doesn't necessarily mean that other people of the African diaspora are categorizing themselves the same way that we do.